Yo guys, welcome back to a brand new video. Bufkin over here. Today we are going to be taking a look at Crystal's paywall seasonal uniform. We already took a look at the Crystal Cost Strife uniform, so if you want to check that out, the link will be in the description. But yeah, today we're going to be seeing how good Crystal really is with her brand new uniform before getting her to tier 4 and after tier 4ing her. To start things off, we're first gonna pick up the uniform itself. Now this uniform has a very good look in my opinion, but it all comes down to how good it really is for it to be worth it for you to pick up for a staggering price of $30 base price. However, you can wait till the end of this week to pick up the 10 free tokens and spend only $20 to pick this uniform up. But yeah, I ended up getting her to level 80, and this is what her stats look like right now. I am using her with the competition, so her performance before tier 4ing her is gonna be significantly worse since competition's damage scales off of instinct. But yeah, we also have a 4-star artifact, and yeah, the uniform is completely upgraded. So yeah, let's just go into the testing. We're starting things off with Jean Grey, stage 40, and we will eventually transition into other World Boss stages and Alliance Battle Legends for the Inhumans restriction, because that is where she is primarily going to be used. But yeah, if I were to talk about her initial impressions on me, she has very slow movement speed, which becomes a huge issue for us, specifically for world boss stages like Jean Grey, where she keeps hitting you with big AoE damage. So yeah, trying to get away from that has been a struggle for me, hence why in this run even we struggled to complete it because we end up dying right towards the end. But this is one of the better runs. If I tried a little bit harder, I could have possibly cleared it, but you can still get an estimate of where we would have ended because we end with like around 3 or 4 bars. But yeah, apart from that, her damage is a bit too low. Again, we are using her with the competition and it doesn't perform that well without having the characters at tier 4. So yeah, I don't necessarily think she would perform this bad with like a mighty rage before tier 4ing her. And the only reason why I am not using a rage is because she doesn't have a guaranteed crit rate in her kit. So it only made sense to me using a competition, and I was already set on tier 4ing her, so it made sense for me. But if you wanna test her out prior to tier 4ing her, a rage would probably be better option to see how she ends up performing. So I'd just say take the numbers from level 80 testing with a pinch of salt. Also, interestingly enough, all her skills now deal gold damage, so maybe you can also try using her with a judgment. Who knows, she might end up performing well with that as well. But competition again is the best CTP for ABL, hence why it made even more sense for me to put that on her. But yeah, as you can see, we are creeping towards the end and we end up dying with around 3 bars of health still left on Jean. A bit disappointing, but you can see from the time we had around 1 minute and 5 seconds left on the clock, so I'd assume we would have ended with like 50 seconds left on the clock or something around that proximity. But it's okay though. But to get more solid results, let's test her out against Kang to see how she performs there. So my approach with testing her out in World Boss was to show you guys her survivability against Jean and her damage output against Kang. Compared to Jean, Kang is much more, tankier, but he is easier to survive against. But yeah, I'm hoping you guys can see like how bad her damage is right now. Again, it has to do with the competition CTP not being able to utilize the instinct that she has this early on without being tier 4'd. But still, for a character with a seasonal uniform, her damage output is pretty bad. The only good thing about her kit is that she has like 2 movement skills, the 4th skill being a VPAT skill and the 2nd skill you can use it to dodge certain attacks. It still doesn't deal enough damage. The rotation that we used was pretty simple, literally cancel everything into 4, and the 4 has VPAT, so you can just move around and heal, deal damage. But it gets rough with characters like Jean because of her AoE damage and her movement speed being pretty bad without the 4th skill's VPAT. However, coming back to Kang, as you can see, she struggles with dealing enough damage, and we are slowly running out of time to even be able to beat him. With the middle phase taking up almost 30 seconds, as we come back, he still has 30 bars of HP left, with us only having 1.5 minutes left on the clock. It's a telltale sign that we will not be able to complete the stage because we are out of enough time. So yeah, I tried to deal as much damage as I could, but then around the 30-second range, I decided that was it. We should cut this run short because there is no point in trying to deal 25 bars of damage in the last 30 seconds. Another failed world boss run. Slightly disappointing, but let's move on to the more hopeful territory as we start our Alliance Battle Legends run for the Inhuman stack. Now, I personally didn't tier 4 Kamala Khan because initially I didn't think she was worth it for just one restriction, but given the Inhumans characters aren't that good in the game right now and Netmarble hasn't really shown them much love, you only have a few options for this restriction. Up until now, I have been using Black Bolt and he doesn't really perform that well here. I get around 9 to 10 million score depending on the season, and yeah, he isn't up to standard for my roster. So yeah, I wanna see how Crystal ends up performing so I can properly replace Black Bolt for good and improve my overall score for this restriction. I've had a bad history with Inhumans characters. I tier 4 Medusa the first week she came out as well, and she ended up not being a good DPS character but more of a support character. And similarly with Black Bolt, I ended up tier 4ing him when he had lost a lot of his value already just to clear 14.5 of dispatch with the 3 Inhumans characters for that specific mission. But yeah, coming back to Crystal in Alliance Battle Legends, I feel like she is definitely en route to scoring much better than my Black Bolt at the moment. She is able to deal a decent amount of damage. Now again, not having her at tier 4 with the competition is negatively affecting her score, so I am gonna be expecting a huge jump in her tier 4 scores for Alliance Battle Legends. But with that being said, we are creeping towards the end of this run and she is gonna end with slightly over 8 million, very close to beating my Black Bolt score already. But now we can finally tier 4 her and see how much better she gets and the competition performs with her at tier 4 in the same exact stages we already tested her at level 80. First, we get past the gears, and I already had an advancement ticket for tier 4, so I ended up using that on her to finally get her to tier 4. Nice! We now have Crystal at tier 4. We got an insane upgrade of almost 30,000 energy attack and a decent chunk of HP as well. Plus, we finally have an insane amount of instinct. 2,500 additional instinct is going to be massive for the competition to give us the numbers we are actually looking for. But yeah, coming back to her build, this is what her stats look like after tier 4ing her, which is insane. And yeah, the build stayed almost identical to what it was before. We can finally set our striker, and we are going to be picking Miles Morales, of course, because he is the best pick for World Alliance Battle Legends and World Boss Legends. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started with our testing at tier 4 because I am expecting a huge difference and a huge jump in her overall performance. So yeah, we are back on stage 40 of Jean. Last time we were struggling with the survivability. So yeah, hopefully this time around it's gonna be a different story. Now, one thing was clear after I tier 4'd her, her damage boosted to an insane level. The competition was being utilized to its maximum potential, and as you can see, almost every rotation did an immense amount of damage, which is a very good sign. However, her survivability is still, under prejudice because of the movement speed being so bad. You have to rely on the, fourth skill V-pad to like move around, because that skill actually gives you much faster movement speed compared to your normal movement speed. So yeah, if you don't have the fourth skill and you get off a certain skill at certain time, you might end up dying because she can't move out of the way. And I faced that issue quite a few times before I finally got to actually clear a couple of these stages. But even as I say that, we are near the end of this run. We will be ending with around 2.5 minutes left on the clock. That is a huge upgrade over the first run, which we struggled to end even after taking more than 1.5 minutes. So yeah, it just goes to show that how crucial having a character tier 4 is when you are using a competition. That brings us to the Kang run. Now this is the stage where we were struggling to deal enough damage and we had to cut the run short because we had almost 25 bars of HP left on Kang with only 30 seconds left. So yeah, already we can see the damage output is very good, the upgrade is massive, and with the help of the fourth skill and V-pad, we are able to dodge certain skills. So survivability is not an issue against Kang like it was against Jean. Phase in the middle is taking up a bit of the time, but yeah, as you can see, with 30 bars of HP left, we still had around 3 minutes left on the clock. Kang tends to drag the battle with the phases he has, so yeah, we are at a very good pace to complete this run for sure. We come to the final phase with over a minute left on the clock, so it is certain that we will be able to clear this stage. The tier 4 striker also does help us a lot, especially since how good Miles Morales is. I also have him with a stack build, so yeah, getting off the tier 4 skill every other rotation definitely helps her scores massively. But you know what I am more excited about? It's Alliance Battle Legends. We did end this run with almost 50 seconds left on the clock. That is decent, but I am more excited to see how much of an improvement we see in Alliance Battle. We get the number for the Kang run noted, and we finally move on to the last run for this testing for this video. We are back with the Alliance Battle Legends run for the Inhumans restriction. Last time around we got around 8 million with Crystal at level 80 transcendent potential, but I am expecting her to score even better than that since we have her at tier 4 now. Now everything else has stayed the same, but the tier 4 striker in Miles Morales itself is gonna give us a massive improvement, and not to mention the competition CTP is also gonna be utilized even more now that her instinct is much higher. So yeah, let's see how she ends up scoring here. I am at least hoping around 13-14 million, cause that would be like a baseline for my account. I don't think I have any other character or any other restriction where a character scores less than 13 million. Now yeah, in the previous run we didn't talk about this, but having a V-pad skill for an Alliance Battle Legends character is massive. You can move around to dodge hits, you can move around to pick the Odin's forces, which makes a huge difference. At times when the Odins end up spawning at like an absurd position, you can maneuver your character to pick up those Odin's mites to the full efficiency. That could literally be the difference between a very good run and a very bad run. But yeah, coming back to the run itself, as we creep towards the last phase with the Odin's force, we already crossed the 12 million mark with 10 seconds still left on the clock. That is a huge upgrade already, but we end the run with an exact score of 13 million. It's like I almost called it from the beginning of the run, but yeah, that pretty much concludes our testing for this video. So yeah, I just don't think she is good enough for me to suggest you to pick this uniform up. close to 5 million more in score in Alliance Battle Legends, and successfully being able to clear the world boss stages we tested her out in. The upgrade from Transcendent Potential to Tier 4 was absolutely worth it. However, in terms of her overall performance, comparing her to the characters she is competing with, I just don't think she is worth it. First of all, her versatility is close to zero, only acceptable for the Inhumans restriction in Alliance Battle Legends, and her world boss performance is bad enough to not even consider her there. I personally don't have Kamala Khan at Tier 4, but I still think being a free-to-play option, she offers much better value, and according to the Alliance Battle community, Kamala Khan already scores pretty much better than Crystal anyways. So yeah, if you were planning to pick her up, I would advise against it. Crystal just isn't a great investment. She is only worth it maybe if you love this look on her or like her as a character herself. In terms of the meta and overall value, she is a huge L. The new April Fool's seasonals were an absolute joke, and I am very disappointed. It almost felt like some of the interns were up working on the most recent updates while the main employees were focused on the anniversary. So we can hope better things are coming during the anniversary. Regardless though, this is the end of the video. I am going to be making a video on all the April Fool's seasonal uniforms, discussing their overall value and if they are worth picking up. But yeah, that's it from me guys. I'll catch you guys later. Until then, take care and peace.